Guys, really quick, I got to get your thoughts here as we continue on the sports spectacular. Lane Kiffin, LSU, Ole Miss said you're not going to coach us. I'm in 100% agreement. Your thoughts?
Man,
Clean
I,
radio.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of what Kiffin did, how he handled this. I don't blame the players for not wanting him to coach or the AD from them not wanting him to coach. Because although he may say he wanted to coach, there's no way I'm letting him near my players if ever again. He's out,
He
right?
successfully made all the college football headlines about Lane Kiffin for 3 weeks, and I think that's what his number one objective was. And he made some more money.
Yeah. More money. Can't blame him for that. 12, 13 million, whatever. But you are about to coach the team you built in its first ever playoff run. You should be there. You can tell them they can wait. That's just my thoughts.
You know what I can't figure out though? What's your goal in college football coaching?
Yeah.
To
To
win,
coach
right?
Alabama
Yeah.
for him.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you're got a chance to win. You have
Yeah.
a chance to win it all, and
Yeah.
you turn it down to basically go to LSU in the same conference, a team that you're better than right now.
For a contract you will not finish, by the way. And
Well,
my
it's like every contract he's ever had. Let's be honest.
exactly. And here's the thing too. So LSU, they fire the AD for giving Brian Kelly, that massive contract. They then turn around and give Lane Kiffin the same contract.
Yeah.
So, okay. I got to get that in. Okay, we got to go. I know Matt Stevens is chomping at the bit to talk about this. I know, Matt, we got to talk. You got 30 seconds LSU, but very quickly, give me LSU thoughts, 30 seconds, and then this Illinois class of 2026. How good is it?
Sounds like Larry just created his own commercial video to run against Jeff Landry for governor of Louisiana. That's my 30 seconds on that. And what do you want to know about Illinois' recruiting class?
Best top rated class ever. It feels like every year Bielema goes out, identifying some needs. But the thing this year is that there are a lot of questions on the offensive line in the secondary, as Brad mentioned earlier. Answered that and then some in this class.
Yeah, I feel like they not only identified need, but they also got a higher caliber. Mike Cagley and I talked about it on the Illini Sports Spectacular that we did, or I'm sorry, on the Illini podcast that we did, IlliniGuys podcast that we did on signing day night. I think the amount of talent that they went after and were aggressive in going after is just a different level of talent, and they weren't initially scared off by the big schools that were going after them. They had built a 2-year relationship, a 3-year relationship with some of these kids and their families, and it made a difference. Nick Hankins had every reason to flip to another higher profile school, and he didn't want to do that. And they were able to flip some other guys like Micah Champ Smith and Javari Burnett, a couple of times over, because they built a relationship with those kids that aren't from the state of Illinois. They're from deep in Florida, but they have a relationship with either Brett Bielema or Aaron Henry and all of those things. And then they really built a nice, I think Brett Bielema used a good analogy that you're seeing the benefits of the 10-win season from last year and then parking that right behind an 8-win regular season of this year to kind of let everybody know, hey, if you had any doubts about where Illinois football is going, you not need have any anymore. And I think you're seeing a higher level of kid have confidence in not only what Brett Bielema is doing, but what everybody's doing in that Smith Center. And they've done a really, really good job of player evaluation along with relationship building in this class. And I think it paid off in the highest ranked recruiting class that Bielema's ever had in his 5 years here. And I give a lot of applause to a lot of people in the Smith Center for putting this together. And now they need to just start stacking classes on top of classes, because if they can do that, then you're cooking with gas.
Matt, you've got obviously the most talented class Bielema's had at Illinois, and the most talented class Illinois using those recruiting rankings, which we all know how valuable those are. But the most highest rated class they've had. But what I think when you look at this is a program that won 10 games and then 8 games without having that highly rated class, with being 15 spots lower. Does that kind of give hope that maybe they can be even a little bit better? This team has a chance to, instead of being maybe a top 25 program, top 30 program, into a top 20 or top 15 program.
What it tells me, Brad, is that I think this staff and the people in the Smith Center, the player personnel people, your Pat Hamiltons, your Nate McNeils, they do a really good job of player evaluation at the end of the day. And they're able to identify the Matt Baileys. They're able to identify, Johnny Newton as a 3-star guy. They're able to identify Keith Randolph and have him be an impact player. They're able to identify Chase Brown and have him be an impact player. They're able to identify guys like Isaiah Adams out of Canada, initially out of Canada and through, the Kansas JUCO program, that he can be an impact player. So their ability to identify talent has never, I don't think, has been questioned by me. It's just been their aggressiveness and their aggressiveness in terms of the financials in putting a package together for a kid that they really, really want. And they did that in this class. I agree with you, Sturdy. I think that this class shows a philosophical change in what Illinois wants to do in that off the field regard and player personnel regard. But because there's never really been a doubt for me in terms of on the field what they can do in terms of evaluating a talent and then developing a roster with what they have. And I've heard you say in repeated interviews that you've done, Sturdy, that you thought that there's guys that can come in dire positional need that can maybe be day one starters. Brett Bielema agrees with you because there's guys in this class that they think can be day one starters. And I think that shows you the level that they had been recruiting at and the level that they're recruiting at now. When you bring in a Nick Hankins and you think, hey, he could start on day one. You bring in a Jacob Everhart and you're like, hey, Miles Scott's not going to be here anymore. He might start on day one. And you probably bring in, 2 JUCO offensive linemen and probably 2 more in the portal that they think, hey, they might start day one. So there's a really good thought that Illinois is identified where they were lacking in 2025. And I think that they're going to try to do something about it in 2026.
So Brett Bielema is no longer the young coach on the block. Now he's got nearly 20 years as a head coach.
Hey, Brett, Mike said that, not me. I'm just
I'm older than him.
Cagley.
Yeah, he's used to me. How valuable are these?
Mike Cagley, you can sit there and say that.
How valuable is the 20 years of relationships that he's built across this country and putting together this type of class?
When Brett Bielema talks about going into the Florida high schools and talking to a Lanny Janikowski from Vero Beach High School that he's known since 1994, he's not making that up. That is a story that is true. When he talks about a high school coach in Jacksonville, Florida, named Jack Daniels, real. That's his real name. He's not making that story up. When he goes and he talks to a coach in Alabama, because he's known that coach as a high school football coach in Florida for God knows how many years. And that's how he got Josh McCray, the first ever signee that he ever had in Illinois football when he got the job. That is what Josh Whitman paid for. That is why he hired Brett Bielema. He brought in somebody that had nationwide contacts at a number of different states at the high school and the JUCO level. I heard you guys talk about it before. I feel like what Brett Bielema is doing in the junior college world is totally different in the last 4 decades. All in the 4 decades previous, between Mike White and Brett Bielema, all the head coaches have done is bitch and complain about the idea that admissions won't let JUCO get in, and it's been a slog for us to do it, and they finally just give up. Brett Bielema and Josh Whitman came up with a plan that makes sense, that appeases the more than appeases, but makes the admissions people very, very happy because those kids leave with degrees, and they're immediate impact guys in the football in the football program and on the roster. So that is what Josh Whitman wanted in December of 2020 when he went out to try to find a football coach. And I think all of those aspects that you're talking about, Mike, in terms of relationship building and keeping those relationships alive, are what's helping him build this roster in his 5th year at Illinois. And I applaud Josh Whitman and everybody in the Smith Center for having those contacts and still being able to use them to get kids into Champaign-Urbana.
Talking with Matt Stevens. Once again, he's the football writer and analyst for IlliniGuys.com. Great reporting all week, as he's done all season long for us. There's no question about that. Matt, I want to talk about one thing you mentioned, that we have to keep in mind the transfer portal is still a little less than a month away from opening. And I think that's where, as I'm watching this unfold and watching these letters of intent come into the Smith Center and those announcements officially, the school can officially talk about these kids. And of course, you were there on Wednesday when Brett did his film session with all these guys. It's just it's an exciting time of year for any program. But again, I think about the 5th year that we've done that with the Illini guys and how different it felt this year than it did 4 years ago, where you're not just trying to grab some guys. You really went through, and again, raising the bar each time. And then now the transfer portal comes up where you got this kind of class. Now you're maybe not as needy in the transfer portal when that opens up.
Yeah, and I also think, Larry, that because they're not doing as much retaining that they did last year of star players, Luke Altmaier, J.C. Davis, Gabe Yakis, we're not trying to retain those star players anymore. I've said it before that Illinois has been cash poor in terms of going to the transfer portal. I think that they might be more cash influxed. I'm not going to say cash rich compared to the top end programs, but they've got more money to work with here because they're not doing as much retainment of star players. And so I think when you go into the portal, I think again, you're going just like this 25 class. A lot of Illini fans and subscribers on Illini Guys for Us are saying, wow, this is a really new world of kind of bio that I'm reading of this kid, of a Nick Hankins, again, of a Jacob Eberhard, of a Micah Champ-Smith. Yeah, you are. And I think you're going to start reading new bios of guys that Illinois is going after in the portal because they have more money at their disbursement, whether it's more money in the rev share, more money in the NIL that they're holding back, or it's just because we're not retaining guys like a Luke Altmaier, Gabe Yakis, Xavier Scott. We're going out and trying to find a couple of stars. We're trying to go out and find a starting left tackle potentially. We're trying to go out and try to find out a pass rusher that can replace Gabe Yakis in the portal. If there's a Fernando Mendoza out there that doesn't want, the stars, just the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all of the monies, we're going to look at him. And so I think that Illinois is going to be very aggressive in the transfer portal. I don't know what the results are going to be, but I think the names of the guys that you're going to hear Illinois is very interested in is going to be a little different than you've heard before out of Brett Bielema. So I definitely think, Larry, there's been a philosophical shift, but also you win on the field and there's an on-field shift. And guess what? In terms of player personnel in the Smith Center, there's a shift there too. And I think Pat Hamilton and Nate McNeil are looking at a different level of potential prospects than they were 2 years ago. There's no doubt about that. Just like as a business, like you said, at Illini Guys, we're looking at doing a lot of different things that we probably weren't prepared to attack in year one. Now that we're in year 5, we're ready to do that.
Yeah, no question. I think that they can spend a little bit of money, and that's going to make you a lot more competitive.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think if there's a star player out there, that Illinois is going to go after him. Will they get him? I don't know, but I think they're going to be in the ballpark, and then they'll figure it out. But I know that they're going to be financially responsible with what they do.
All right. Matt, we'll leave it there. And the thing, too, like you said, I think where even this class helps because great players want to play with great players. And if you're looking at seeing what they're bringing in, you're excited about that as well if you're a potential Illini down the line. Matt, great work as always. We appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Saturday off. No football, no snow for you this weekend to drive through, to walk through.
Larry, the Shauna Green and the Illini women are playing Indiana. And if you don't think I'm going to be there, you don't know me very well, and you don't know what was in my crib when I was born, in Illinois basketball and something that was related to hating IU. So I will be there, and I will be there with bells on, Shauna. Let me know. My Saturday is not off, even though my boss on this radio show tried to give me a day off. All right. Let's make that very clear.
Off in terms of the football hat, but we know you will be there and you'll be indoors. That's the key thing. So Matt, great work as always.
Basketball, Brett, I do not think you're old, even though another one of my bosses does. I just want to make that very clear. For all of the people I deal with.
I got Brett out yeared.
Yeah. By the way, the 3 Illini guys are all older than Brett, so it's okay.
Yeah,
Matt, appreciate you. Football writer, analyst for IlliniGuys.com. Well, we'll come back and finish up the show. Also, our picks for this weekend. That's next.